Welcome in a prime evening to all of you. I'm Thunderbird Prime, master of YouTuber, and tonight we're going to give our first try at a React stream. Well, technically, second try. The first try was back in November where we watched those videos, Teach a Boy to Cry and the Male Loneliness Epidemic videos by T-Sleeves and Shoe on Head respectively. You know, I kind of like that format of streaming. I mean, like, everyone does it. I feel like it's been almost 4 years since I started VTubing, and I never really did a React stream. Also, hi, Jake. Congratulations on getting first. You're officially the coolest member of chat tonight. So anyways, I was just talking about how this is my second attempt at doing a React stream. My first attempt was back during Movember, covering some very important topics to me. But this time I figure let's try doing it a little more lighthearted. Or like semi-lighthearted. Like, I did ask people in my Discord to like submit videos to the React Stream submissions channel in my Discord. I didn't really get much, so I had to go look up videos that are kind of relevant to my interests, as well as the interests of chat. I am going to attempt to watch some of those videos, and then we'll move on to more like comedic videos. And if we still have time at the end, I'll try doing some standard polls in Girls Frontline too, just to pad out the time. So if you want to submit stuff for any possible future React stream content, just click that Discord link, join the Discord server, and submit stuff to the React stream submissions channel. Just make sure it's like TOS, nothing that'll like get me in trouble or get me banned, yada yada yada. We're cool? We're cool. Anyways. Oh no. Someone is typing in the submission channel. Well, without further ado, let's get started on the first video I found. Let's hope that okay, we got the right window selected. Bam. Why people like anime girls, and they have Kurisu in their thumbnail. I gotta say, solid choice. It's like, let's play a game, chat. Let's kind of predict what this person is going to say before we even watch the video. Why people like anime girls? Here's my answer. People like anime girls because they embody both the physical and personality traits. Ow! Hi, knives. We're about to start our first video for the night. As I was saying, like, people like anime girls because they embody both the physical and personality traits that people find desirable. That's really it. That's like the simplest answer I can provide. Let's see what this guy has to say then.
This is an anime girl. To the average observer, this may look like just another animated character. But what if I told you that characters like this have been reaching international popularity? Whether you're from Japan or not, the odds are that you yourself have seen someone online using an anime girl as an avatar. In this video on PaxTube, we're here to find out why these characters are so well liked.
Ideal woman with no chance of actual
Ladies and
rejection.
gentlemen, let's talk about anime.
Also true.
Specifically, the anime and manga industry produced by Japan. This art industry has become very popular around the world, especially on the internet. Unlike Western animation, which typically gears itself toward children, the anime industry targets a wide variety of age demographics. Thus, you'll find fans who are adults and teenagers alike. In recent years, Western companies have even attempted live-action adaptations of anime. With...
I've actually watched that Netflix Death Note adaptation in Takako's server like years ago. Oh, that was physically painful. And oh boy, look at those scores. Holy shit. Both critics and the audience fucking hated them. Oh boy. Yeah, and Takako invited Carmine as like a special guest to do commentary watching it. And it sounded like he was in physical pain too. Oh, I feel sorry for Carmine. I wonder if Carmine's gonna like watch this VOD.
Not much success, to put it lightly. But the rise of popularity of anime in the West is worthy of investigation, and it leads us to some telling conclusions. A key factor that stands out in anime's success is its female characters, who garner fan bases in and of themselves. The term waifu, a variation of the word wife, is
More
used
than one
commonly in
waifu
anime
will
circles
ruin
to
your
refer to
waifu.
one's favorite female character.
Wise
It's become
words.
obvious at this point that anime girls have a special charm that viewers in the West are picking up on. Firstly, appearance. Now, the most common explanation of why anime girls are popular is that they're cute. And that's very true.
Yeah.
These characters are professionally designed to be feminine and attractive. There are
Engineered to be cute.
devoted to their styles. The physical traits that are highlighted in anime include flowing hair, large and detailed eyes, and slim or curvaceous bodies. These features are highlighted because they're widely accepted as beautiful. Some might argue that beauty is subjective, but let's face it, they're ultimately physical traits that people are biologically wired to be attracted to. Those creating anime do not try to obscure this. It should also
They
be
have it
noted
down
that
to a
these female
science.
designs go hand in hand with clothing that accentuates their feminine features, such as ribbons, bows, or other hair accessories. Meanwhile, some character
Ding,
designs are
ding.
more childlike, which are intended to trigger protective instincts from the viewer.
Protect!
You could call this the cute or comfy factor. Now, of course, anime doesn't exist in a vacuum, so to understand its ascendancy in the West, we also need to look at what's going on in Western media. In Western media, by contrast, there's been efforts to reduce character designs that even differentiate between men and women. Some have linked this to the fat acceptance and androgynous movements, but truthfully, these two movements are simply two branches of the entire source. That source is feminism, which has come to utterly dominate Western media. Hollywood and television studios consistently identify more as feminist and liberal than the general public. This is then reflected in their portrayals of women. In a great irony, feminism rejects the value of femininity and works instead as a conduit to make females masculine. The biological differences between the sexes are
isn't it?
seen not as something to be celebrated, but as
Of course, I had to
obstacles
use a
be
Star Wars
destroyed.
quote.
These natural differences are thus downplayed, and studios put ridiculous efforts into making female characters look and behave like their male counterparts. Things weren't always this way in Western media, but they certainly are now. Meanwhile, this kind of feminist influence simply does not exist in anime studios, and that's played an enormous part in this contrast with
Saber!
character designs. And beyond just the issue of feminism, a solid portion of the animation that gets propped up by
that's
corporations
ugly.
in the West is downright hideous. So it's clear that the physical appearance of anime girls is a main factor that makes them popular in the current West. But I will submit to you that there is an even greater factor at play that goes far deeper than physical appearance. To lead into this, let's look at how Maki from the anime Love Lab responds to receiving a compliment from a boy.
君さ、ちょっと可愛いと思って人のことバカにしてんだろ。なんだよその反応、おかしいだろ。
Take note of the
Damn!
being displayed here. This leads into the point. Anime girls are liked because of their virtuous and feminine personality traits. A female character portraying bashfulness like this is common in anime, but all but extinct in Western media. Generally, these characters demonstrate attributes that make them ideal candidates for wives. including loyalty, modesty, and a positive view of marriage and children. It's a common sight in anime, especially in the slice-of-life genre, to see characters outright fantasize about marriage.
それにこう見えても天文学の前はいいお嫁さんになるのも夢だったから2人で
お二人の初めての共同作業です。
Do 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 do.
Characters are written this way intentionally, because not only do these virtues make them good love interests, but they're also admirable traits in and of themselves. I've noticed that chastity in particular is a value that anime likes to highlight. This applies to both male and female characters, but to avoid going off topic, I'll stick to the females. Importantly, even female protagonists that are designed in a sexualized way are written carefully to have these virtues. I may not be a fan of some of these designs because they stride the line towards sexploitation, but their behavior, as I've described, shows that they're written with nuance. As one example of this, in the anime Overlord, the character Albedo is revealed to be a virgin despite her sexualized appearance. It's a rarity to hear a character say something like this outside of anime. Now, these female characterizations draw a stark contrast to not only Western media, but Western society itself. Currently in the West, values like modesty, chastity, and romantic exclusivity are increasingly treated as unnecessary or antiquated. This is in spite of the fact that
Ironically, Ainz is missing the one bone that Albedo wants the most from him.
most research shows that these things are critical to developing healthy long-term relationships. A 2019 research report from the Institute of Family Studies found that traditionally minded and religious couples reported the highest level of relationship quality and sexual satisfaction. Other research has shown that women who engage in promiscuous sex are more likely to have failed marriages, more likely to become single mothers, more likely to get an abortion, and less likely to report personal happiness than women who had zero sexual partners prior to being married. It truthfully turns out that the sexual revolution and free love were an utter disaster. But in spite of this, most of Western society continues to double down on normalizing promiscuity. Fortunately though, things aren't all bad just yet, as surveys do show that people say that those with more than 2 past sexual partners are undesirable for long-term relationships. The problem is that Americans report having between 4 and 7 past sexual partners. This has created an extreme gap between the kind of person people want a long-term relationship with and the kind they can actually choose from. Furthermore, the average age people first report having sex is 17. Now add in the fact that data shows marriage has a negative correlation with number of sex partners. That is, the more sex partners a person has, the less successful their marriage is likely to be. All of these things have come together to create a relationship wasteland in the West. It's created a situation where the average person has to choose between settling for a spouse with many past sexual partners, which they don't want, or dropping the idea of marriage entirely. A horrible situation through and through. Meanwhile, rather than trying to reverse
hey, don't worry,
this,
lady. I'm
Western
also
media
30,
has led the
unmarried, and don't
charge
have
in
kids.
exacerbating this
It's not so
crisis.
bad.
Studio executives practically fall over themselves to put forward female characters that are sexually promiscuous and masculine. As an example, in the show Game of Thrones, nearly every single female character is written to either be involved in numerous sexual relationships or to have no interest in men whatsoever. Other shows that focus on teenage relationships are
I don't know,
rife
I
with
never watched Game of
premarital
Thrones.
sex,
Is that true?
abortion, homosexuality, and marriage being treated as a backwards institution. So with both Western media and society increasingly abandoning both feminine and monogamous traits, anime has done the opposite. It's now effectively one of the last reliable places young men can look to
I
find
think this video is
idealized female
biased.
portrayals who would make good
Just a
wives.
bit.
Thus, it shouldn't be surprising at all that it's garnered a large male audience. Now, a lot of anime fans may recognize this fact implicitly, but not actually be cognizant of it. There are, after all, many anime fans who are degenerate, and I think part of the reason these people exist is because they were never able to recognize what makes anime girls unique in the first place. And while I'm sure someone can find exceptions to what I've said in this video, they are just that, exceptions. To draw things to conclusion, the anime industry produces some beautiful works that we, as Westerners, can learn from. None of this is to say that anime is perfect or that Japan is a perfect country. all
It's not.
things have their
It's not.
flaws. But what's clear here is that anime's female portrayals show feminine nature in a positive light that feminist media never can or will. In essence, it exposes the current cultural crisis in the West in both media and public attitudes. When a huge portion of your male population has to look to a foreign medium to find virtuous female portrayals, that's a serious problem. I ultimately hope this video helps people see the value of virtue and the void that's left when people turn their back on it. Now there may be some things I forgot to mention, so feel free to leave your views in the comments. And if you enjoyed the video, please consider subscribing and clicking the notification bell, as it really helps me to make more. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.
Alright. Never in my life would I ever thought that someone could spend 10 minutes discussing the pros of animated Japanese women. The world is truly a strange and interesting place. That sure was something. Boy, I picked a really interesting one to start off with, didn't I? Well, I predicted that the why people find anime girls attractive. My prediction was pretty much spot on. But damn, you could tell this guy has some biases. Now let's try to open the floor here. Yeah, he might have an inclination to think that. You can really tell. All right, let's see here. What are the takeaways here? I'm just trying to like mentally wind down from that video so I can like think more clearly. It might take a while. I don't know. Maybe I have some bias too because I've never been in like a serious relationship before. Mainly because of like a certain incident in high school, just like utterly poisoned my view of relationships and pretty much made me go, nah, no thanks, I'm good. Comparing IRL people to anime is unhealthy and holds people to an impossible standard that doesn't exist. Is a good takeaway from this video. Yeah, you have to remember that anime is hyper exaggerated. But still, people like hyper exaggerated things. I mean, I love Symphogear. One screenshot from season 4 perfectly encapsulated. We're gonna fight Ludicrous with Ludicrous. That's the summation of that entire franchise. It is true. And it's true that like anime holds people to some like really impossible standards. Also, two partners is undesirable? Damn. I don't know. I'm at, my count is 0. I'm kind of below average in that regard. Like when that dude was reading off the like relationship statistics, I'm like, wow, none of these apply to me. And back to the whole standards things, like, sure, I know deep down in my heart I'll never have like the muscles of like Joseph Joestar back in JoJo Part 2, where he has like biceps the size of his head. That's not going to stop me from at least like closing the gap even just a little bit. It's like, I know those standards are impossible. Like, I am fully aware of that. But I'm still convinced to like work out and improve myself. Maybe to not to that ridiculous degree, mind you, but still something to shoot for. And then you look at the whole cosplay scene, it's like, yeah, there are just some anime women you'll never be able to perfectly replicate in 3D. Like, holding cosplayers to that ridiculous standard is unfair, to say the least. But still, a lot of them are going to try anyways of their own accord. They'll try to get as close as possible. The most appealing traits a man can have: kind, considerate, can make her laugh. Those three factors can turn average-looking dude into husband material. Thank you, Knives, for saving that. That gives me a little bit more hope for humanity as a whole, knowing there's still people who think like that. Because I definitely look for those qualities in a woman as well. Kind, considerate, can make me laugh. Definitely like high up there, if not like at the very top. I mean, yes, looks do matter. And I'm tired of pretending that saying looks don't matter automatically makes you a good person, because that's just untrue. But like, a 10 who's not kind and considerate automatically like drops down to like a 4, in my opinion. Oh, you're absolutely right, Knives. Like, the most vocal on the internet tend to be the most exaggerated and attention-seeking, end up making all sides look like assholes. This is why I don't really go on social media much. And if I do, I limit who I follow. Like, I'm just so sick and tired of like those childhood messages we heard growing up that like, oh, looks don't matter. It's what inside that counts. It's like, I feel like I've been lied to. Like, you're right. Looks do matter to a degree. We all got different preferences. And we are absolutely have the right to our own preferences. People are allowed to like what they like. This video, while there is a lot of heavy bias, and there is heavy bias, they do make a point of like anime girls do embody like physical and personality traits that people usually find like desirable. And I think that's like part of the reason why like I was drawn to anime in my youth. Cause like all the personality traits that these anime girls portray were like vastly absent in my real life growing up. If only people could be more honest and straightforward like you are, Knives. It would save a lot of headache. Short answer, we do. Long answer, we just do. And I do like that, like, even if these videos might be, like, inflammatory, it does open up discussion. All right, now let's move on to the next video, hopefully. I feel like this is also going to be another inflammatory video. We'll get like the controversial videos out of the way first, and then like cleanse the palate with something a lot nicer. Like this thumbnail alone is already clickbait as hell. Holy shit. See, this if it was just this thumbnail, I wouldn't even consider it. But like the actual title has me intrigued. This is gonna be an interesting night, I can already tell. I feel like we're gonna loop back on the like idealized female that's not real. Your waifu is not real. I am painfully aware that my waifu is not real. That will not stop me from improving myself to be the kind of man she hypothetically wants. Like, I've been working out, I've been eating better, I've been fixing my sleep schedule, I've been pursuing my creative endeavors, I've been, like, managing my finances better. But anyway, enough about me. Let's watch this video, and let's step into this minefield of a video.
Hey internets! One of the more bizarre questions out there is something I like to refer to as the VTuber question. Are VTubers cringe and degenerate? Or are
yes,
they fine
and
examples
yes.
of just pure, harmless, youthful fun? The answer to
also
which is
yes.
all pretty subjective and something you can argue either way. But what's more interesting is a question that often
depends
comes back
on
with
the VTuber, really.
question, which is, are VTubers political? And that question often gets swept under the rug with usually the milquetoast answer, which is that, oh, it just depends on the VTuber. Some VTubers like Kirsch focus on politics a lot, then you have others like Pippa who are occasionally political, and then you have fun little moments like this one.
What do you think of men who get cooked?
I think that's really sad. They should beat their wives.
lives.
What? Holy shit!
Isn't it? But honestly, most of them tend to avoid the subject of politics entirely, unless it's in the context of a joke. Like, for example, Iron Mouse reacting to AI of Donald Trump and Joe Biden playing video games, which is political, but obviously just satire, which is honestly a smart position for most VTubers to take. Treat politics as something to laugh at, instead of taking a serious stance, so that way they don't alienate half their audience. And so that's the answer you're gonna usually get when you ask the question of, are VTubers political? But that's not where I'm taking this. There's a much more interesting way to answer this question, which is to interpret it as, are VTubers inherently political? Is there something about VTubers that has inadvertently proven something about modern culture through their rise and success that most people wouldn't even notice or even think about? That perhaps there's an experiment that all VTubers have been participating in, whether they know it or not, which handedly disproves a major mainstream media narrative. Intentional logical fallacies are used by various media pundits all the time, which is why I am partnered with Ground News. Different media sources can report
Do we
the same
watch
story
the
in
ad
ways
chat?
that makes it look like the exact opposite of what's going on is true. And Ground News helps you see through this bias by compiling thousands of articles and organizing them by their bias and political leaning, with features designed mainly to save you time in comparison to if you were to try and do this by yourself. For example, there are many articles going around this month on what's going to happen to Donald Trump's legal troubles and criminal charges since he became president-elect last month. Kind of puts a whole damper on the whole thing, doesn't it? And Ground News provides a lot of features to help you easily sort through these articles and see through the bias. First off, it gives a nice summary of the issue. Prosecutors don't want judges to toss out Trump's criminal conviction, but recognize that keeping it going would be difficult since he's now president-elect. So they are instead trying to stall the case. It also gives a summary of different sources reporting on the topic. Right-leaning sources seem to suggest that prosecutors are obsessed, going too far that the whole thing is lawfare. Center sources simply state the DA wants to pause the case but uphold the conviction until he leaves office. And left sources like MSNBC reported as if Bad Orange Man is using his election win to evade justice. If you were to ask me, the whole thing is dumb since it was a victimless crime anyways. But Ground News can help you come to your own conclusion. Let's you easily see
I
which
wouldn't
sources
say it
are
was
reporting and how,
victimless.
such as with this handy bias distribution chart, or with things like this that let you see who owns the media sources reporting on the topic. You can also click on a source to be taken directly to their version of the article, or find similar articles quickly and easily via the similar news topics feature. There's also Blind Spot, which lets you see at a glance topics that are being ignored or underreported by various media sources based on how far to the left or right they lean, which lets you see things that you might ordinarily miss due to the reporting bias. Lastly, Ground News is independent and subscriber funded, so to get the same features I have, you can go to ground.news/MentisWave or scan my QR code to now get 50% off the Vantage plan, which gets you unlimited access.
Or
Anyways, the answer
you could
to that
use critical
question,
thinking.
Have VTubers accidentally proven something about our culture that mass media doesn't really want to talk about? Is in fact a very large yes. And it's something that starts to reveal itself when you start to examine the phrase manic pixie dream girl. A fantastic example of how modern cultural critique is filled with a lot of really dumb ideas that are both largely misandrous towards men, but interestingly, in this particular case, it's also something that has a side effect of being severely damaging to young women, in that it preaches to young ladies a false narrative that, when taken seriously, will result in them making a series of really bad and dumb decisions that will ultimately ruin her life and destroy any romantic prospects she may have. And VTubers have just kind of accidentally proven
I'm
just
also
how stupid this
sensing a
concept
bias in
is.
this video
So
as
what
well.
exactly is a manic pixie dream girl, you may ask? I'm sure some people who've clicked on this video already have a basic concept of it, but for
Yes.
those who don't know,
Yes,
manic
I
pixie
do.
dream girl is a trope, a character archetype.
I'm a
of
writer
something
after all.
commonly found in fiction, although can occasionally exist outside of it. And the character usually has the following traits. The first is that they are eccentric or has a quirky personality, you know, not like the other girls type. They're also young, female, and usually single, and so in fiction she will usually be the romantic interest or the hero of the story. She also often has interests and hobbies that are less common for a woman of her age. She's usually optimistic and positive about life, although this rule can be broken if it's in line with her eccentric nature. And lastly, she usually ends up teaching the hero of the story something about life. She either helps him get on his feet, provides him with some kind of motivation, or again just serves as the basic love interest of the story. So basically she's quirky, she's positive, she's fun, she's different. And she's also, strangely enough, an archetype that you could easily apply to, well, pretty much every single successful VTuber. So I actually found that it was harder to find a VTuber that doesn't fit under the manic pixie dream girl label. The vast majority of the VTubing industry can be understood as young girls, usually with a fun and upbeat disposition, using an anime model instead of just being a cam girl, and they usually have some kind of eccentric or unique backstory to their character. There's some men out there who are VTubers, but mostly it's young women, usually women under the age of 35. And what VTubers mostly do is provide
Hi, male
entertainment in a
VTuber
manner that
here.
is mostly pandering to a male audience. So they'll do things like streaming
Have
video games
confidence.
or reacting to internet memes while being quirky and fun. The only real
No
difference here is, again, they're not
confidence.
entirely fictional. There is a real person behind the model. But at the same time, they're still somewhat playing a character. I mean, most of them break character all the time, and only occasionally play within their role. In many ways, VTubers are just female streamers using an anime character. But the point is, the successful ones at least, nearly all fall under the Manic Pixie Dream Girl archetype, which is very, very interesting. Because the thing about the Manic Pixie Dream Girl is that it's also an archetype that is very deeply hated by the sort of neo-Marxist woke progressive types. And they of course use the usual prog snarl words. It's problematic, or it's sexist, or that it's harmful in some way. Because, you know, it hurt their subjective feelings, so therefore it's harmful. Their logic is flawless. Don't question it, don't think about it, just accept it. And they've been talking about this for much longer
The
than
bias
VTubers
is
are
strong.
a thing, and so VTubers aren't really their go-to example. Instead, they complain about characters usually in mainstream movies like Summer from, you know, Days of Summer, or Sam from Garden State, or Ruby from Ruby Sparks. And their complaints about it are as follows. The first is that the Manic Pixie Dream Girl only exists to help the male hero out of depression, and that she is therefore just a tool to be used to this end. The second complaint is that she has no life of her own, and often her family has no part in her depiction. Also, she has no will of her own, and just goes along with whatever men want her to do, which is then used to imply that she's failing to pursue her own happiness, and that she's helping men grow while experiencing no growth herself, and that the Manic Pixie Dream Girl is just in general unrealistic. Overall, the main complaint here seems to be just woke progressive feminists screeching that women are not objects that exist to help men or inspire them or make men happy or whatever, and that the Manic Pixie Dream Girl archetype somehow implies that they are. Now, like all midwit takes, there is a base level of truth in these people whining about Manic Pixie Dream Girls, because unrealistic characters to serve as romantic interest absolutely do exist, and they can get pretty darn cringe. For example, a common trope you might see in romance novels written for women is an alpha male with supernatural powers, taking interest in a totally ordinary, normal, boring girl for basically no reason, and he then proceeds to take care of her and protect her throughout the story for, again, basically no reason. Twilight is usually given as the basic example of this, but it happens a lot. And on the flip side, you can also find unrealistic female characters in things like Japanese harem anime, where an extremely boring male character, with no personality so to speak, that always looks like Shinji for some reason, gets his pick of a slew of extremely attractive female characters who all have the hots for him for basically no reason whatsoever. He just kind of exists, and suddenly all these girls who have been designed to have absolutely no unattractive traits in them whatsoever suddenly all want him. And it's true that these tropes can be bad, however, they're not exactly sexist and harmful, at least not to the gender they represent. Rather, they're usually harmful more so to the people reading them. The problem with these kind of characters is that they're wish fulfillment characters. They give young readers an extremely unrealistic expectation for the opposite sex, which can
we pointed that out before.
Cold and alone. I mean, there's a reason why harem anime is often laughed at as a genre of anime that is mainly for virgins, because it kinda is, to be honest. A really basic red pill advice for young men is that you can't just sit around and wait for some 10 out of 10 pure-hearted female with absolutely no flaws about her whatsoever to just magically take an interest in you and do all the work and just want you for no reason. That just doesn't happen.
That's like,
Rather,
when you say it like that, it does sound unfair, doesn't it?
You earn. So in reality, you have to become the kind of man that the kind of woman you want finds attractive. And of course, the same thing.
That's what I said earlier!
If a woman is not attractive to the kind of man that she finds attractive, she's not going to get that man. There are exceptions to this basic rule, but most of the time, you can't just do nothing and have your perfect dream partner fall into your life. You have to actually do something. And in many ways, it's very similar to economics. You have to offer people something that they want in order to get what you want. And there's another channel known as
Why is the saturation so bright in this part?
Extensively when talking about relationship advice. A big problem with the dating market is that too many people are going into it only thinking about what they can get out of it, rather than going into it thinking about what they have to give, or what exactly is it about you that makes you a good partner. And I have a special understanding of this because one thing people might not know about me is that I'm actually a married man. I normally would never bring this up, and I normally don't talk about myself much because it doesn't really matter in the context of philosophical or political channel. But it is relevant because I can point out one very simple fact about a lasting marriage, which is that you have to care about what your partner wants. You have to care about their well-being. In order for love to work and for it to last, you have to wake up every day thinking about what you have to give, rather than just what you can get out of your partner. If I didn't care about my wife's well-being, or if she didn't care about my well-being, it wouldn't work. You both have to genuinely respect each other's will, almost as if it were your own. And so that is just kind of the basic nugget of truth that exists within this critique of the Manic Pixie Dream Girl archetype.
It sounds crazy, but he might be onto something here.
The problem is, and where they completely screw up and get it all completely backwards, is that what they're whining about isn't actually unrealistic at all. I decided to watch some of the movies and look at some of the characters that are often called out as being manic pixie dream girls, and the only consistency I found is that they were women, they had some femininity and some quirkiness to their personality, they liked to have fun, and they didn't hate men. So to any woman out watching this, if you meet these 4 traits, congratulations, you apparently don't exist. So what we are seeing here is kind of the reverse problem. Rather than setting
Don't worry, I'm a male
unrealistically
VTuber.
high
Apparently I
bar
don't
for a
exist either.
potential partner, what we're really seeing here is an example of feminist critique going too far. They're setting an unrealistically low bar for women to go for. Or if you are anything other than a man-hating, scowling, strong woman who don't need no man, then you somehow represent a problematic, unrealistic standard, and that's of course completely ridiculous. It kind of reminds me of the male incel community complaining about how women aren't interested in men who are poor, stupid, and short, or otherwise lack any masculinity in them whatsoever. Just because standards exist doesn't mean you're being oppressed. And look, I get it, it can be really hard to meet some of those standards, especially as a guy, because some of those standards are indeed a lot higher. But whining about it doesn't really change the fact that that bar exists. And going back to VTubers and examining them alongside the movies that get accused of having manic pixie dream girls in them, we can easily see how this bar isn't really that unrealistic at all. And a lot of the critique also has some really obviously faulty logic when you think about it, which really shouldn't surprise anybody, because one of the main central components of neo-Marxist philosophy is that they tend to view everything through the false dichotomy of victims and oppressors, when in reality social interaction is much more complicated than that. And as a result of this, they tend to commit false dichotomy fallacies and make bad faith arguments all the time. For example, one really stupid and very common false dichotomy is objectification. For example, attractive female characters in a story exist, or lots of YouTubers like to use sexy models. And therefore, men who enjoy that are objectifying them. They only view her as an object. But that's actually a false dichotomy. It is entirely possible, in fact very common, for a man to find a woman sexy and attractive and still respect her as a human being with human rights. Just because sex sells doesn't mean that men only view women as sex objects. You can absolutely find a woman sexy and still respect her. And yet whenever I see these radical feminist neo-Marxist critiques of art and literature and whatnot, they just automatically assume that any attractive female character is being objectified, which is objectively invalid reasoning. Those two scales are not tied together. Men's brains do not work in a way where the more attractive we see a woman, we then automatically have to see her as less of a human being. The personality scale and the look scale are entirely capable of going up and down independently of each other. And yet because neo-Marxist philosophy tends to view the evil straight white male as the oppressor group, it is automatically always taken in bad faith, and so it is assumed that the evil straight white male must therefore be objectifying any woman who is found to be attractive, or any woman in art or literature who is attractive. And that's objectively not true. It's a false dichotomy fallacy. It's not a sustainable argument, and as I've just shown you, it falls apart very easily when examined. And here's the thing, the same thing is true for pretty much all the other complaints about the manic pixie dream girl. For example, going back to VTubers, there are a lot of young depressed men in the Western society. That's just
boy, are there.
Many of them watching VTubers helps them out of that depression. Does that mean they see the VTuber as just a tool to bring him out of depression? Just an object with no will of her own? Just a means to an end of that goal? No, of course not. That's ridiculous. That is just another false dichotomy. For the exact same reason, just because someone helped you out of depression doesn't mean you view them as a tool with no human agency of their own. That's ridiculous.
If anything, I would be thankful to that person.
We then have to ask, so why is it that Sam in Garden State is therefore just an automatic objectified tool for helping Andrew out of depression? Why does that need to imply that she has no agency of her own? It really doesn't make any sense as soon as you realize that it's just all false dichotomy. And she's also not a perfect girl at all. She's not unrealistic. She has problems of her own. If you actually watch the movie, Sam has some pretty serious issues. Or how about the idea that the manic pixie dream girl has no life of her own? I mean, where's that even coming from? So because a girl doesn't open up about who she is and give us a massive backstory about everything in her life, then she has no life of her own? I mean,
it's called boundaries.
And plenty of content creators don't talk about their life that much outside of what content they make. That doesn't imply that we have no life, and it certainly doesn't mean that you're only allowed to look at them as someone who has no life. Again, another stupid, bad faith false dichotomy, where the evil, straight white male is assumed to be a villain who only views others as a means to an end. And then the weirdest critique of the manic pixie dream girl has to be failing to pursue her own happiness, because that's a case where it can be entirely reciprocal. Lots of people have fun making making other people happy. That makes them happy. Having fun and being entertaining for others can be a mutually beneficial act. Like with Summer in 500 Days of Summer. And all the silly antics that she's pulling, her character seems to be having just as much fun. In fact, in many cases, she seemed to have more fun than the male main character. And with VTubers, most of those girls stream for hours on end, and you can tell that they're genuinely enjoying it and having fun with their audience. Which then kind of brings you to another problem with neo-Marxist woke progressive thought, which is that they tend to have a very bizarre zero-sum mentality towards the world. They tend to think that one person's gain is another person's loss. One class is the victim, the other class is the oppressor. All again stemming from false dichotomies. And what ends up happening as a result of this is that the sort of radical neo-Marxist feminist types end up shaming any woman who doesn't hate men, which is probably why I see the word pick-misha often being thrown at VTubers. Now, on the surface
I've heard
of
of
the
pick
word,
me, but not pick
is
misha.
defined as a woman who devalues herself in order to get picked by men, or a woman who is constantly seeking validation from men. But the problem is, the word in practice generally gets used against any lady who happens to get along with men just fine, or just does something that the neo-Marxists don't like. For example, apparently Dipper Dog is a pick-me because she reacted to a video of men doing better than women at hunting, so she had fun laughing at
I watched
the
that
basic
video.
biological
It's hilarious.
differences between male and female and humans. Apparently this is pick-me behavior. Or how about another example? Apparently Smug Elena is a pick-me for making fun of game journos over the whole Black Myth Wukong fiasco.
Hey. It's always good to make fun of game journos.
And that somehow makes them pick-me's. Gee, it's almost like pick-me isn't really a word that's used with any kind of consistency in regards to what it's supposed to be defined as. It's almost like it's just being used as shaming language against any woman who steps out of line and goes against the cult of woke. And the more you look into it, that seems to be exactly what's going on. Like another silly example, apparently every single VTuber who played Hogwarts Legacy, from Pikami, Pipkin Pippa, is a pick-me girl for playing Hogwarts Legacy. Which is weird, because Hogwarts Legacy wasn't even really that anti-woke. It's just that the neo-Marxists have decided that for some reason J.K. Rowling is literally the female reincarnation of Germany Bad Mustache Man, and therefore the game is problematic, and therefore every VTuber who plays it is a pick-me. The whole discourse surrounding it and how this word is used is just so completely unhinged and insane that I almost don't even need to point out the logical problems with or the false dichotomies and bad faith assertions anymore. The inconsistency is just so obvious that it practically refutes itself. And if you don't believe me, try searching for the word pick-me on the internet and how it's used yourself. It seems to always be used against any woman who does anything nice for a man, any woman who sets any kind of standards for herself whatsoever, or just any girl who just does anything at all that the
Remember how Shoe on Head gets called pick me?
The smart move is to do what Pippa did, where she adopted the pick me label for herself as her government name.
Pickled Pepper, pick me Pippa.
Being called a pick me. Don't take it seriously. Just laugh and move on. And fortunately, it seems that most VTubers seem to understand this. The haters gonna hate mentality is likely the best move here. And so, what's the real conclusion here? Where am I going with this? And the answer to that is that VTubers have accidentally proven that labels like Manic Pixie Dream Girl and Pick-misha are really just crab mentality, which is the if I can't have it, neither can anyone else mentality. It's a very bizarre and toxic psychological phenomenon where people will try to undermine the success of others. Because one thing that's interesting about VTubers is, again, I'm talking about mostly successful VTubers here. A lot of these girls actually make pretty decent money. They don't make as good of money as some people think they do, but for any girl who manages to hit around 100k followers, it can become a pretty stable upper middle class income. And the girls who manage to hit 1 million can also hit the 7-figure mark in their income as well, which is kind of the bizarre irony of the situation. I've often said the biggest problem with modern feminism isn't so much that it defends women's rights, but rather the problem is it doesn't really defend women's rights. It instead tries to entitle women with rights that have nothing to do with property rights, as a form of weird gender socialism to convince women that they're always the victim. You know, going back to the victim-oppressor dichotomy of the whole neo-Marxist ideology. And yet, here they are shaming successful women because some of those successful women are turning against the woke brigade. It really shows just how toxic the ideology is. But perhaps the worst part about this isn't really something to do with VTubers specifically, and instead just manifests as general bad dating advice directed at young women. If I were to look at both the red pill manosphere and compare it to, say, female dating strategy, one could attempt to argue that, oh, they're both equally bad, they're two sides of the same coin. But that's not actually true, because the red pill community at least gives men basic, decent advice. even if it really can be a little bit misogynist at times. For example, when Andrew Tate says that you should lift and that men should be constantly improving themselves, he's correct. Some of the other things he says may be questionable.
I don't like the guy,
basics
but
of
if
the
he actually
advice
said
is
that,
correct, which is that you need to be
then it's
constantly
correct.
striving to be the best version of yourself that you can possibly be, because that way you're focusing on what you have to give, which in turn increases your value in the dating marketplace, or just makes you a higher value partner in general. And you see that within pretty much all of the red pill community. Constantly improving oneself is always a part of the message. And yet when you look at the advice given to young women in places like Female Dating Strategy, or pretty much any dating advice from a sort of neo-Marxist woke feminist lens, this angle of self-improvement doesn't really exist. Going back to how Ho Maths puts it, it's stuck at stage 3. They're stuck in the mindset of thinking of relationships only in the context of what you can get out of them. And so the self-improvement element is largely missing from their advice. There's a little bit of it, but it's a drop in the bucket in a sea of entitlement. For example, what is a high-value woman? Well, according to them, a queen. And what is a queen? Well, it's a woman who already knows that she's high value. And if that sounds like circular reasoning, well, because it is. And therefore, the queens deserve high-value men because they just do. And if you're a woman and you dare question that, and you try to think about what you can do to improve yourself, well then, you guessed it, you're a pick-me. Do you question the narrative that all the evil straight white males are in fact a bunch of bastards who only want sex? Welp, you're a pick-me. You being nice to men? Nope, can't do that because men just want to sleep with you. And any lady who questions that is, again, you guessed it, a pick-me. And while there is a little bit of correct advice here, like for example, I will never be with a man who cheats on me, it doesn't really
Okay,
matter
that's
because
just
that was
common
kind of
sense.
obvious. There's nothing in here that teaches young women what they actually need to know, which is how to improve themselves and how to select for men who are actually interested in commitment. Instead, what I see from this ideology seems to start out from the assertion that you are already maximum value, and so ladies are therefore entitled to commitment from men. And depending on whether you are a man or a woman, if you question this, you are either a pick-me or a sexist. And that is not good advice for young women. Unless, of course, you're trying to write a book that is designed to teach girls how to wake up one day and look in the mirror discovering that they are 50 years old and still single and never married. Thinking that you're entitled to commitment is terrible advice. And if we look at similar subreddits to FDS, by shared user base, we can see that this is exactly what's happening. Dating over 30, dating over 40, child free. This is definitely not the advice that any young lady should be listening to. And then you look at the red pill community for men, and it's a completely different story. There's plenty of self-improvement here. Seduction, bodybuilding, male fashion advice, fitness, social skills. This is actual proper advice. And the most important difference, though, is that you almost never see men tearing each other down for being successful. And yet it happens all the time in the circles of fake advice given to women, constantly clawing at each other and ripping each other apart for that one time she did something nice for a boy. It's pretty ridiculous, and it sadly shows that Western society still has yet to fully learn. There's a legendary article called The Misandry Bubble, written by Imran Khan of The Futurist, and one of the most important parts about it that most people kind of gloss over is this section right here. The basic premise of this article is that men and women are equally valuable, but have different strengths and weaknesses, and different priorities. Society is strongest when men and women have roles that are complementary to each other, rather than of an adversarial nature. Furthermore, when one gender, either one, is mistreated, the other ends up becoming disenfranchised as well. Any society that wishes to sustain itself needs for men and women to get along with each other, or else both parties are going to end up suffering, as the culture of their society becomes more
But
and more
that can't
toxic.
happen
And
because
so
of
when you see
social
progressive
media.
pseudo-intellectuals, under the guise of women's rights, trying to demonize men, and telling women that holding herself to any kind of standard is giving in to some kind of sexist stereotype, over time that mentality is doomed to end up harming women just as much as it harms men. And VTubers have gained success by just kind of accidentally breaking out of this mold. They've found a niche market in being fun and entertaining and not hating men. So it's kind of a silly but also very real example of the free market kind of fixing it. But unfortunately, there's still a lot of work to do, and the dating market in general needs to be repaired from the damage that has been caused to it by this neo-Marxist regime. And hopefully today I have helped by pointing out just how ridiculous and inconsistent the flawed reasoning that this regime uses really is. Which is important because a lot of these people who believe in this ideology are in fact mainstream corporate journos. And you will see this kind of inconsistent reasoning in mainstream publications. But hopefully you now know how to spot it and not fall for it. And so for now, that is all I have to say. Thanks for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and if you enjoy my content and want to support me, you can do so on either Ko-Fi, Subscribestar, or by buying some merch, or by again checking out Ground News. Because they really do a great job in showing how the same story can be shown in a completely different light from different sources. But yeah, again, for this video, that is it. Till next time.
All right, let's take some time to like kind of like wind down from that again. Because boy, oh boy, just like the last video, that one had a lot of like bias towards it. This trope character is just a tool because they help the male character out of his depression. For the purposes of the story, yeah, in that instance, the character is a narrative tool. But if that kind of scenario played out in real life, if a girl helped a guy get through his depression and made a hugely positive impact on his life, she's not being a tool. She's being that man's everything. He would value that woman above all else because she gave him the emotional support that men these days are sorely in need of. I can personally vouch for this. This happened during one of the darker periods of my life, where a woman from like an unexpected source kind of gave me the emotional support I needed to, you know, not just end it all and to keep on living. If anyone remembers that like NaNoWriMo thing I did a couple of years ago, you know exactly who I'm talking about. But yeah, now you think about it, I'm trying to think of like all the VTubers I watch, mainly the women VTubers, because like this video focuses on the women VTubers. I'm thinking of like all the women VTubers I watch consistently. And yeah, they kind of all fit into the manic pixie dream girl archetype in one way or another. It's really... Nina Kosaka got it right. Men are easy. Just be nice to them. That's all it takes. And that's why their mostly male audience keeps coming back. Myself included. Because they're just pretty chill. They're having fun. They're nice to people. Wow, what a concept. Like, of all like the corpo VTubers I watch and all the indie VTubers I watch, yeah, that's the common thread. It's like they're chill, they're doing something that lets them have fun, they enjoy what they're doing, they're nice to the people that show up. Yeah. Like, now I think about it, it's like that not only applies to the women VTubers I watch, but also the men VTubers I watch too. Of course, most of the time I'm friends with the men VTubers I watch. But that's beside the point. The point is like they're usually doing something that they're having fun with. Usually playing some super niche game. Wait, that sounds like me. Holy shit, I cracked the code. But that kind of like, is there like a male equivalent of Manic Pixie Dream Girl? Because if there is, I don't think a lot of male VTubers fall into that category. Like, if I try searching it up on TV tropes of like... Alright, Manic Pixie Dream Girl. Because I know that exists. Let's see. Is there a male equivalent? A manic pixie dream guy is a much rarer concept. Tend to be either young, like a kid sidekick, or immature, like a man-child. If the latter, expect them to learn just as much from their cynical partner as they teach. The cynic learns to enjoy life more, while the immature one learns responsibility. Okay, so if we look at this cynically and say like the male equivalent of Manic Pixie Dream Girl is the man child, then yeah, for better or for worse, I think a lot of male VTubers fall into that category. I mean, when you pull back the veil, we're a bunch of adult males playing video games, staring at boobies, and just participating in general tomfoolery. Yeah, that sounds like man-child, kind of. Let's see what other comments we can like glean from that. There it is. There it is. Men are easy. Just be nice to them. Nina Kosaka. Anime is dangerous because it offers men the fantasy of a woman who loves them just for who they are. Young women, Hosho Marine, front and center on the screen. Someone's trying to win brownie points with Sencho, huh? 99% of men give up and start working on themselves before a 10 out of 10 rich, big titty goth vampire tsundere who is also your childhood friend who you forgot about because, yeah, moves in next door and gets interested in them. That is oddly specific. And yes, this person gives a good point too. Just like a woman can respect an attractive man, a man can respect a woman he's attracted to. It happens all the time. That's how people get married. Wow, what a concept. Oh yeah, I still have water. I've been talking for so long, I forgot I have water. And people were like, he fell down the VTuber rabbit hole. The inevitable fate for a lot of people. Yeah, now that I think about it, yeah, going back to like the majority of VTubers I watch. Yeah, fun to be around, nice to people, quirky, doing what they love. Yeah. It's just a matter of like finding your niche. And like I myself am trying to like refine my niche. That's the whole reason why I'm like trying out a couple of new things, using Friday as like a freestyle day. Like Friday can be like a collab day. Friday can be a writing day. Friday can be an art day. Friday can be a react stream day. Friday can be a tier list stream. Friday can be something else entirely. Maybe we can do something similar to like the Common Writer discussion stream we had in 2023. Like I had to make sure because 2024 Movember was like, oops, all StarCraft and StarCraft 2. No, 2023 was when we had the Common Writer discussion with Carmine, Sora, and Melinda. Like, I want to try to do something like that similar in the future. It's just a matter of like scheduling it because my work days are weird. My hours are weird. But at the very least, they're consistent. It's like, it's always going to be Thursday to Monday. And always from this time to that time every day. So at the very least, I can kind of like work with that. Like, I don't know. I also have to like think of like one, the topic of discussion. Like, it could be another media franchise, like Symphogear or Nanoha or Blue Archive or Girls Frontline 2 or Azure Lane or Genshin Impact or anything like that. And then I have to find like relevant people to invite. And I'll actually have to like reach out to like people that I'm not necessarily friends with, but kind of acquainted with. But like the one point I like 100% agree with about this video, as much of there is a bias in it, it's like the point he made is like, if you want to like attract like really attractive people, you gotta like work on yourself and improve yourself. You can't expect like the world to just give you a perfect 10 on a silver platter without you doing anything. Like, as much as it sucks, they have a point. As like unfair as the high standards are for both sides, it doesn't erase the fact that those standards exist. Like, even if you'll never reach that bar, you can, at the very least, close the gap between you and the bar. And that's all anyone can realistically ask for. Which is why, like, I'm trying to apply that to VTubing as well, which is why I'm, like, trying out different things on Fridays. Try to see what works. Because, like, I've been kind of doing the same thing for over 3 years now. And, like, my growth is slow and steady, but, like, it's the slow part that I'm kind of having trouble with. Well, thankfully, I now have a video editor to, like, trying to help those views get up. Thanks, Iggy, by the way, if you're watching the VOD. But yeah, speaking of like male VTubers, from the man himself, Randon, the truth about male VTubers. Let's just dive into it. And hopefully we'll get through this quick because it's like 5 minutes.
Male VTubers. Disgusting! A while back, 3 years or so, I made a video talking about whether I thought that the male VTuber debuff existed. Now, I've gained a lot of experiences of male VTubers since then, so it felt right to do a follow-up video on whether or not I've changed my mind. In that first video, I said that I thought that there was no male VTuber debuff at the beginner and mid levels of streaming, and possibly only a debuff at the very highest levels. I had that opinion because I noticed that there were many examples of femme VTubers that I thought were outstanding that underperformed. And although I didn't really state it out loud at the time, other examples of male VTubers that I thought had a following way bigger than what their entertainment value merited. Basically, I saw underrated female VTubers and overrated male VTubers, and to me that meant that there was probably no male VTuber debuff. That was 2021 me. He's dead now. What do I think? I think that there is a debuff.
He's dead now.
It's mostly a passive one, not some kind of evil conspiracy out to screw us over. Imagine that you have the ability to view perfect information about the current VTuber audience. Completely accurate stats about every single person in the world right now that watches VTuber content at least once a week. I'd be willing to bet $100 that the total audience tend to skew heavily towards male, maybe about 70% even. That audience was introduced to VTubing through various femme VTubers. keys in an eye, etc., etc. This
Wow,
is the
the
first
OG.
thing that I've learned over the last 3 years. Content consumers are very, very picky. A person hops on YouTube to watch your videos or your streams on topic A. It is almost impossible to get them to watch your video that you made about topic B. They only want A from you. Even if they like topic B, they've already got a guy for topic B. You're their topic A YouTuber, and you're gonna stay that way. The current VTuber audience as a whole heavily favors watching femme VTubers. That's why they got into the niche, and it's borderline impossible to get them to switch. But it's not because they hate dudes or something. This is just a general quirk about viewers, content consumers. There's probably even a sizable chunk of VTuber fans that enjoy watching male streamers, but they prefer facecam streamers and not VTubers for that. And there's nothing wrong with that. People shouldn't be judged about having preferences. Let people
said
like
that
what they
before.
like in peace. So where does that leave us poor homeless VTubers in 2024? Real talk. If you come into VTubing with the intention of building a viewer base of people who already know and like VTubers, you're gonna have a bad time. I mean, think about it. That means your target audience is someone who already has a favorite VTuber. It's going to take so much time and energy to convert them over to your camp. Even if you manage to do it, it won't feel good. At least it wouldn't feel good to me. The better mindset is to find someone out there who either has no idea what a VTuber is, or even someone who knows but dislikes VTubers, and make that person into your fan because you're just that entertaining. That way, that fan will be way more loyal than someone who's already out there in the VTuber space just shopping around, right? It makes sense. Here's another piece of advice. Think of something that you're obsessed about, preferably one that doesn't already have a VTuber associated with it, and make funny, entertaining videos and streams about that topic. It could be a very replayable video game with a small but dedicated audience, some kind of hobby like woodworking, or a subgenre of hentai that people are super like girls or orcs. I don't know. The number one mistake that I see new VTubers make is copying the people in the big leagues. They did not get to their size by doing the thing that they're doing right now. Think of your favorite VTuber and do a little digging. I bet you they did something very, very specific, like getting to Grandmaster in Overwatch or ASMR or something else like that to get to where they are now. You look at them doing variety streaming right now, but variety streaming is a trap for growing streamers. Hell, even Jerma started out making Team Fortress 2 videos. Ludwig was a Smash Brothers Andy, you know, stuff like that, and so on. I believe that you are an interesting person and that other people out there will find you interesting as well. Just play to your strengths and think about what you genuinely enjoy and obsess about, and I guarantee you that there are at least a couple million people out there that would love to hear you yap about it. Oh, one last thing. I said that the male VTuber debuff was mostly a passive one. Mostly. I'm going to be honest with you. There is a tiny but intense group of people out there that seem to really hate male VTubers. They probably hate on male VTubers more than they actually watch their favorite, which is kind of crazy to me. When I got into this space, I didn't even know that they existed. I was just a fan, you know, from the OGs of the pre-streaming era to the big corpos of today. Running into them gave me quite a shock because I don't really hang out in the community spaces of my hobbies. I just kind of enjoy it in a vacuum. Anyway, if you're a male VTuber and things are going pretty well, you will probably run into these people eventually. I do not think that these people represent VTuber fans. I would advise that you ignore them and you keep doing your best to entertain your true fans, the ones that find you interesting. I do not think that these haters represent a real male VTuber debuff. They're just a potential stumbling block if you give them too much attention and create unnecessary drama for your community to worry about. So make your space a fun and exciting place and kick out the bad eggs. Don't even feel bad about it. See it as protecting your community. All right, that's my retrospective on male VTubers. Peace.
I've never realized this.
Wait.
For the past 8 months.
Male VTubers. Disgusting.
Disgusting.
A little while back, 3 years or so, I made...
Why was autoplay on? Anyways. Some actually pretty good advice from Brandon. Does the male VTuber debuff exist? Yes. Make no mistake about it, it exists. But Randon does offer some insight on like how you can work around that. Number one, don't try to target VTuber fans because they already have a favorite VTuber. They're not going to switch to you, okay? Let's just get that out of the way. He speaks the truth. I mean, this also kind of gives like some insight on what I can do personally because, hey, guess what? I fall into that category of male VTuber. Believe it or not, I am a dude. Dun dun dun! So anyways, it's like... Is variety streaming a trap? I'd say it's like a minor trap. So like, Randon is like mostly right in that regard. Maybe I do have to like focus on something specific. Maybe I'll have to talk to like my editor about that. I mean, I kind of carved a niche for myself. Like, whether I like it or not, whether I planned it or not, I kind of became the Yakuza streamer, the RGG streamer. Like, when I look at, like, my Twitch, like, year in review for 2024, like, my top categories were Judgment, Yakuza, Like a Dragon, Lost Judgment, and, like, I was top 10% for all of those categories. It's like, I guess I'm the Yakuza streamer now. I guess if RGG Studios keeps making those games, I'm always going to have a niche. Yeah, I go back. Yeah, I posted it in general in my Discord server. It's like, top categories, Just Chatting, top 10%. Lost Judgment, top 10%. Yakuza Like a Dragon, top 10%. Judgment, top 10%. Final Fantasy 14, not top 10%. Like, 4 out of the 5 categories that were my top categories, I was top 10%. Like, the middle 3, I totally see. How the hell did I become top 10% in Just Chatting? I will never know. But hey, I guess I am the Yakuza streamer. We will be making lots of Yakuza content, don't worry. We have lots of games to go through. We still have to finish The Man Who Erased His Name. Then we go to Infinite Wealth. Then Yakuza Pirates in Hawaii. And also Ishin Kiwami, because I was gifted that game. And then we also have to look forward to Project Century. And maybe if I can somehow find a copy of Dead Souls, I'll play Dead Souls. And maybe translated copies of Black Panther 1 and 2. And if there's a translated version of Kenzan, maybe I'll play that too. The point I'm trying to make here is, like, I am not in any shortage of RGG content. We're going to be playing these games for a long time. And he also brings up a good point. It's like, I wonder everyone who, like, shows up for the Yakuza streams, do they show up for anything else? And I was like, I think like in year 2 or 3, I kind of started looking at my content more critically about like what's something unique I can bring to the table that most other VTubers don't. And I kind of concluded that like in like character-driven single-player games, like I can offer insight on like the writing and characterization. Because, like, for some of the Yakuza games, I was able to correctly predict some of the twists that were going to happen. Mainly because, like, I'm a writer myself, so, like, I'm kind of familiar with these, like, writing tropes and tricks that RGG Studios employs. And I'm, like, trying to continue that with, like, my writing streams. It's just like I've kind of been busy working on other things behind the scenes, things that I can't really show, things that I'm trying to like keep under wraps, keep it a surprise so I don't spoil the surprise. Because like the temptation to show everyone my work in progress is unbelievably strong. But instead, I only show it to like a close circle that I can trust will not leak it. And I continue to work on that during my off days. The thing is, I don't really get a lot of off days. And I'm trying to get back into writing. I mean, Friday was supposed to be like designated writing day, but like I also want to experiment on like doing different things like React streams, tier lists, trying to get those discussion streams back again. But like I genuinely do want to get back to writing because like that was like one of the concrete things I had in mind when I like set out to be a VTuber. It's like I wanted to be the VTuber with the most comprehensive and detailed lore. Like that was my biggest goal going into this, and it's still something I want to do. It's just I also want to like grow my audience so like there's enough of an interest for people to like actually read the lore. So like maybe I have to like talk it over with my editor, like what kind of like original content shorts can I make that focuses on like my hyperfixations. So in short, thank you for the advice, Randon. I will do my best to keep it to heart. But hey, speaking of Yakuza, how about we watch a video from Super Eye Patch Wolf? Yakuza is stupid and beautiful, and I love it. You took the words right out of my mouth, Mr. Eye Patch Wolf. So without further ado, let's watch the video.
Yakuza is a series about hardship. It's a series about characters trapped in a system struggling to break free. It's about doing the right thing when the right thing seems impossible, about growing old, about forming connections and discovering what really matters in life. Of course, you wouldn't know that from any of the footage I've been using because Yakuza is also one of the most deceptive video game series in existence. A title of wild clashing tones that should not go together,
and
but
yet
somehow do, and in the process, form something different and more. Yakuza is a contradiction, and Yakuza is beautiful.
it
These
sure
are games
is.
filled with powerful men of strength and resolve tearing off their shirts as they howl into the night sky and slam their fists into each other's bodies in explosive clashes of will and fury, where massive underworld conspiracies threaten to consume entire cities and destroy the lives of every citizen in it. But these are also games of some of the straight up goofiest shit you've ever seen. Moments when logic and reason careen into the
Baby football!
intense melodramatic crime story melts into a bizarre Japanese life simulator, to the point that depending on what part of Yakuza you see, it could either seem like a cinematic GTA-like set in Japan, or a bizarre Animal Crossing where you can kick the shit out of people. And the truth is, it's neither, and it's both, and it is absolutely worth your time and attention. And to begin to explain why, I'd first like to talk about the very particular circumstances that led to Yakuza's creation, and the man behind the games, Toshihiro Nagoshi.
The GOAT!
2004 was a difficult year for Nagoshi, as it was for many employees at Sega. The company had been in dire straits since the disastrous surprise launch of the Sega Saturn console in 1995, and had placed all their hopes in their final console, the Sega Dreamcast, as well as its killer IP, Shenmue, a highly ambitious open-world title in a time when open-world titles did not exist on consoles, clocking in at a massive $47 million budget.
Holy
which was
shit.
at the time the most expensive video game ever made. Shenmue would sell well, but only made up for a fraction of its cost, financially crippling Sega and leaving the company unable to compete in the increasingly hostile console market. And so Sega, the former giant who had once gone toe-to-toe with industry deity Nintendo, ceased production of the Dreamcast and declared themselves a third-party company, their only option now being to make games for the very competitors who had put them out of the console business. This caused morale at Sega to plummet, with many staff even questioning if the company had a future.
But Sonic Adventure 2 though.
Consoles. But Nagoshi, a young creative officer at Sega who had worked on titles like Daytona USA and Shenmue, saw things differently. Now that Sega were making games for other manufacturers, they could potentially sell to a much wider audience. And so it was out drinking in Tokyo's red light district that the idea
I've been here, chat. I've been
What
here.
if they made a game aimed at adults that took place in the intense nightlife of Tokyo? And what if it had a level of detail and immersion that could let players lose themselves in an intimate open environment, with a deeply engaging story set in the violent world of the Yakuza? Japanese games had a complex relationship with violent and sexual content at this point. Violence against monsters and zombies was acceptable, but not against other humans. And the topic of the Yakuza was a complete no-go, which is why upon pitching the idea to the higher-ups at Sega, Nagoshi was met with immediate pushback and rejection. The idea was too violent, the themes were too adult, it wouldn't sell to children, and it was too Japanese to sell overseas. But Nagoshi did not relent.
Bullshit.
He saw real potential here. He believed in his vision and wanted to use the more adult themes of the game to draw in a new, much wider audience for Sega, and then engage that audience with a much more sincere and heartfelt story.
Haruka with a
than
gun!
anything the company had attempted in the past. And so the day finally came when Nagoshi stood in front of Sega's upper management and declared that if Yakuza was not a success, he'd resign from the company, never to return.
Damn.
I bring this up because I
Also,
think
hi,
it's
Seven.
interesting that a series about passionate men trapped in difficult situations did itself come from a passionate man trapped in a difficult situation. And also because it shows one other thing. Nagoshi is Yakuza. And I don't just say that because he looks and dresses like a character that could appear in his games. This man has been the beating heart of the series for 13 years, through 7 mainline games, 7 spin-offs, and 2 remakes. And after going through enough interviews with him, you can begin to see how his worldview and personality has bled into these games and shaped what Yakuza has become. And one of the most prominent ways that this has happened is in Yakuza's approach to open world gaming. Open world games, and specifically open world crime games, have been one of the most lucrative genres in gaming for years, and it's easy to see why. The fantasy
GTA.
of being let loose in a city and doing whatever you want, unrestrained by law or reality, is a powerful one, with many open world games allowing players to rampage through its streets, robbing cars, shooting police, and causing cathartic mayhem. And what immediately stands out about Yakuza's open world is that it doesn't actually have that option. The option to commit mayhem just isn't there. Despite the fact that you play as a criminal, you can't attack people or commit crime. And this
Look,
is something
Nagoshi
Nagoshi
only
actually
looks like a
commented on in
Yakuza.
a
He's not
lecture at
actually a
Oxford
Yakuza.
University, in which he was referring to the GTA series. I simply can't bring myself to promote the emotion that killing is fun, that committing crime is fun. And what I find so interesting about this is that by eliminating the way a lot of games let us interact with their open worlds through violence, it forces us to view the world of Yakuza in an entirely different way. You're not God here, you're just another person, which forces you to engage
just a
with the
dude.
city like you would if you were actually there. And the reason this is a positive as opposed to a limitation is the very particular design of Kamurocho itself. In a lot of open world games, the focus is on size, large open environments that stretch on
With
as
nothing in them.
forever. But Kamurocho is different. Kamurocho stretches out for no more than a few city blocks. But the key here isn't Kamurocho's size, it's its density.
Density.
Rather than having a massive world
Quality
filled with
over
empty
quantity.
space, every corner of Kamurocho feels defined and realized. And these locations are filled with different activities and distractions that make the city feel dense and alive. I've spent hours wandering around this town, completely ignoring the game's mainline story. And
I
just
spent
getting wasted in
years
bars or going bowling
wandering
or hanging out at the
Kamurocho.
batting cages.
So when
know
I
that
visited
side activities
Kabukicho,
are kind of a given when it comes to
I
open world
navigated it
games, but
perfectly.
trust me, Yakuza is different. It feels like there's so much love and consideration gone into each sub-activity and side quest. For example, check out something that happens when I was exploring the seaside town of Onamichi in Yakuza 6, and by pure chance I wandered down to the pier and got talking to this cool little fishing girl, which in turn led to a side story about their family business, which in turn ended up unlocking an entire full-blown new game mode, with new art assets.
We do
new
have this
gameplay
shit for every
mechanics,
game.
new environmental design,
It's
cutscenes,
great.
and boss fights, including this giant squid, which I shit you not, had his own theme music. And if I hadn't wandered down to the pier, I could have completely missed this part of the game, like I did in Yakuza 0, when only after finishing it did I discover that there was an entire sub-game built around pocket stock car racing. Gameplay mechanics, progression
You either
systems,
love it or hate it.
customization features, and storyline. And there are multiple of these layered, intricate sub-games per title, like Yakuza 0's Host Club side quest with an entire game built around owning and operating a successful host club, or the dojo management sim from Yakuza 4, or the fishing from Yakuza 3, or the baseball side activity of Yakuza 6, in which Kiryu has to scout and manage an entire baseball team that essentially turns the story of Yakuza into a shonen sports anime.
Yes,
It's
it does.
also through these side activities that the game's personality really starts to shine. Everything in Yakuza's world has this overblown, overdramatic, bombastic quality to it. Even something as minor as Kiryu picking up a telephone becomes this big, extravagant show of will. Like, seriously, check this out.
Watch. Moshi moshi.
Yakuza revels in the irreverence. It delights in depicting serious men in ridiculous situations. What all this combines into is an open world that is at once immersive and hilarious. You never really know what you're going to see on the streets of Kamurocho, and that's kind of the joy of it. And it's fun, and it's weird, and it's exciting, but it also serves another purpose, and that's how the game's open world is used to flesh out its main character, Kiryu Kazuma. Kiryu is known as the Dragon of Dojima, a respected and feared high-ranking member of the Yakuza, his stoic, icy demeanor being surpassed only by his fiery ferocity in combat. And that's the fun of playing as Kiryu. He is a fantasy, a respected, powerful, very attractive fantasy.
All very true.
Combat does a great job of making you feel like that. Combat occurs either randomly out in the open world or in the game's more linear story sections. And while the fighting isn't especially deep, it does capture the feeling of being a legitimate Yakuza badass, as you take on scores of foes while building up meter and obliterating enemies with Kiryu's creative and brutal heat actions. This, combined with how he's framed in the story, makes Kiryu feel like this indestructible Yakuza demon. And the final aspect of Yakuza's open world I'd like to talk about is how it takes that demon and makes him feel human. By eliminating the ability to cause violence and mayhem, the game ends up sidestepping one of open world gaming's biggest problems. A lot of open world games want to give us as much freedom as possible, while also asking us to empathize with its protagonist and story, which is a problem if in between story sequences we're using that same character avatar to run down pedestrians, which creates this immersion-breaking separation between the player's actions and the game's narrative. But in Yakuza, that separation doesn't exist. While Kiryu will defend himself if attacked, he would never attack an innocent person, therefore that option is not available to us. But this also
Gameplay
means
and
that
story
every
integration.
action we can take is in turn something Kiryu would actually do. And it's here we start to see a very different side of the Dragon of Dojima. Kiryu is this indestructible Yakuza badass, but he's also someone who just likes to relax in his local cat cafe, who gets way too into stock car racing, enjoys a passionate round of karaoke, and who hangs out in chat rooms while typing like an idiot. What takes this further is in its many sub-stories, in which Kiryu meets one of the city's usually pretty strange inhabitants and helps them with some personal issue they face. And rather than just feeling like standard side quests, these are actually a lot of fun. Either playing up Kiryu's awkwardness by dropping him in an uncomfortable situation, or just being genuinely heartfelt. And it's through these activities we get to know the goofier, more intimate side of the hardened Yakuza legend. And it humanizes Kiryu in a way that only video games can really do, as by exploring and engaging in Yakuza's open world, you're coming to know the subtleties of Kiryu's personality. The other advantage of this is that when we do actually engage with the game's story, we're already invested because we already care about Kiryu. Most of the plots of the Yakuza games follow the same basic formula. Kiryu, or one of the other series protagonists, becomes involved in some massive Yakuza conspiracy over either land, money, or in several cases, a small child. And from here,
small child Daigo.
Buildings of enemy Yakuza.
Hope you're okay, Seven.
Culminating in a scene where two men derobe and wrestle until one stops being evil. The quality of the plots varies a lot from game to game, but one thing that stays consistent is the level of visual presentation. The Yakuza games, and specifically their cutscenes, are gorgeous. Even on older hardware, everything from the character models to the facial animation to the camera work and lighting are leveraged to convey a palpable sense of tension and emotion. For example, check out this scene from Yakuza 6 where Kiryu meets new character Somiya. And watch how much drama the game squeezes from this brief exchange and how much it says about their relationship, conveyed purely through editing, shot composition, and sound design.
It's tense. The building of the tension. Sidestep.
This scene shows something else also that's core to this series, and that is the conflict that forms between Kiryu and the other members of the Yakuza. And that's a conflict rooted deep in Kiryu as a character. What I think is so interesting about Kiryu as a protagonist of these games specifically is that the same philosophy that drives the gameplay of Yakuza's open world is also what drives Kiryu as a character. And if the idea of being opposed to crime and murder sounds like a conflict of interest for a professional criminal Yakuza, oh
yes,
boy is it. There is in Japan this super romantic idea of what being a Yakuza is. Despite the fact that they are a known criminal organization, public opinion on the Yakuza is mixed, with many people seeing them as criminals who keep crime clean, who keep more volatile groups like the Chinese triads in check. And a big part of this is down to the Yakuza's own efforts. They frequently try and position themselves as a positive to Japanese society, doing things like contributing to the relief effort in Japan in times of crisis, as they did in the 2011 triple meltdown of the Fukushima power plants, or the 1995 Kobe earthquake. Actions like this mean it's very easy to get a romanticized view of the Yakuza, to see them as modern-day outlaw samurais, whose means may be questionable but ultimately have Japan's best interest at heart. This is the traditional, idealized view of the Yakuza, and this view is...
So basically, Kiryu is like an idealized representation of what the Yakuza think they are, as opposed to all the other Yakuza in the games, which are what they're actually like.
Shared by Kiryu. To him, being a Yakuza means being strong enough to stand outside society's laws and forge your own path through life, and having the will and conviction to do what only you believe is right. The problem with this ideology, though, can be revealed with a quick Wikipedia search. The Yakuza have been involved in everything from human trafficking to dogfighting to high-level government corruption to even open gang warfare that spilled onto the streets of Tokyo with innocent lives lost in the crossfire. This is the violent reality of the Yakuza, and it's that violence that is embodied by many of the characters surrounding Kiryu. Kiryu is at heart a good person, but he's part of an organization that surrounds him with evil people. Every character in Yakuza has their own distinctive worldview and philosophy on what it means to be a Yakuza, and it's these ideologies that drive Yakuza's more brutal encounters and what keeps these conflicts so interesting. I want to return to Somiya for a moment. If that cutscene from earlier wasn't indication enough, there comes a point in the story where Somiya and Kiryu have a showdown. Showdowns in Yakuza tend to coincide with the major beats of the story, and are usually preceded by both characters ripping off their suit jackets and bearing their tattoos before beating the living soul out of one another. And the tattoos specifically are important. These are the physical embodiment of what it is to be a Yakuza to these characters, with each carrying personal significance to the character that bears them. Like take Kiryu's dragon for example. The dragon is the undefeatable Lord of the Heavens, expressing his own strength and commitment to his own freedom. Or Nishiki's koi, the fish of legend that swims up the waterfall in order to one day become a dragon, marking his desire to surpass Kiryu. These are the marks of the Yakuza way of life and the ultimate dedication to its values. Which is why it's so shocking when Someya does not have one. He sees the tattoos as an outdated practice of a bygone era, and he is the cold new generation of Yakuza, divorced from the idea of tradition and honor, focused only on acquiring power. This frames the ensuing battle between the two as less a straight-up fistfight and more a clash of ideologies. Even completely divorced from the plot, you can see how these two characters would take issue with each other. With Kiryu's idealized version of what it means to be a Yakuza, against Someya's cold, emotionless reality of what being a modern-day Yakuza actually is. It's setups like this that gives these violent brawls a real emotional weight, as each character struggles to prove their resolve and justify their own way of living through sheer physical force. And they're brutal and they're exciting, but there's also a kind of sadness to them too, and one that grows more prominent as the games go on. Later on in Yakuza, the constant fighting starts to take its toll on Kiryu, who eventually becomes disillusioned with his underworld lifestyle and decides to walk away and start a new peaceful existence with his adoptive daughter, Haruka. But there's an issue there. Kiryu can't help himself. To him, being a Yakuza is something you're born as and not something you become, and he just doesn't fit into any other corner of society. And so over and over, he gets drawn back into these conflicts, trapped between his former life as a Yakuza and his desire to live a peaceful existence with his family. And this is the struggle that plays out over the course of the series. I feel like at this point it's worth noting that we've gone from talking about goofy octopus hunting hijinks to a story where broken people repeatedly crash into each other in a failed attempt to make progress. Yakuza is tragic and hilarious, but life is tragic and hilarious.
The baby.
And it's when these two sides begin to bleed together that the games start to form something earnest and more. I want to talk about a moment from Yakuza 0 that really hammered this home for me. It's the point in the story where Kiryu has gotten himself into a lot of trouble, to the point that his best friend and former Yakuza running buddy Nishiki takes Kiryu on a car ride so the two can escape Camera Ocho and let the heat die down. Nishiki and Kiryu grew up in the same orphanage and have become kind of brothers to each other. And throughout Zero, you've explored the town with Nishiki, you've gone drinking with him, he's helped you pick out suits, and for a while the two friends just drive in a comfortable silence. Until they stop at, well, nowhere. Kiryu gets out of the car and Nishiki offers him a cigarette, which Kiryu takes a slow, steady inhale of, before finally asking Nishiki what exactly he's doing. And Nishiki, through tears, tells Kiryu that this is the kindest, most painless end Kiryu could hope to meet at this point. Nishiki doesn't want to kill Kiryu, but he also knows the far more sadistic end Kiryu will meet at the hands of the lieutenants. And it's a real heartbreaker of a scene, delivered with all the mood and weight these games are so adept at. But as I was watching it, all I could think about was this really stupid moment from earlier in the game, when Nishiki and Kiryu were singing this dumb karaoke track and the whole scene transformed into this 80s hair metal style music video.
Breaking
and how fun
the
and
world.
weird and silly it seemed at the time. And how now in hindsight that moment feels nearly obscenely tragic. How the reality of who they are and what they do has caught up with them, and it feels real and weird and sad. And it's a moment that sums up why I love these games. By taking joy in the little moments and letting us just get to know these characters through its silly open worlds and side quests, it makes the journey they ultimately go on and the hardships they face feel oddly real and human. And I think that's really cool. I think that's something to be celebrated.
It sure is.
I hope if I've done my job right here, you're at least a little intrigued about this series, which games to play and where you should start. But the truth is, I think all this series is worth playing. Maybe not one after the other unless you have 300 hours to kill, but if
like
you need
me.
a place to start, I'd really recommend Yakuza 0. The game is a prequel taking place 20 years before the events of Yakuza 1, and it has arguably the best story, combat, and gameplay systems out of any of the games. But possibly its biggest selling point is its second playable character, Goro Majima. Majima is Kiryu's psychotic and dangerous rival, eventually turned ally of the series, and he's this kind of fascinating wild card in the world of Yakuza, the total opposite of Kiryu in nearly every respect. And so imagine my shock when the opening of Yakuza 0 depicts my eye-patched brethren as a diligent, buttoned-up manager of a successful cabaret club, and watching the waterfalls of shit he has to wade through over the course of the game, and how it gradually transforms him into the feared mad dog of Shimano he becomes for the rest of the series. In a weirdly powerful and sad story about just living life on your own terms and being who you've gotta be. One that had me weeping like a small weak child by the time the credits rolled. The other advantage of starting at 0 is that this will also position you perfectly at the start of Kiryu's story, and from here you can watch him go from a young, inexperienced Yakuza thug in a cheap suit to the legendary Dragon of Dojima, to just a man trying to outrun his past and struggling to start again. In a story that spans 7 games and 30 years, over the course of which it never stops feeling like it has something to say. In a narrative that shows life at its most small scale and silly, as well as its most brutal and tragic. And the oddly human feeling that comes when those two worlds overlap. And I think something that unique and special could only come from a single passionate vision. Which is why I'm so glad that Nagoshi fought through Sega's dark age and made his vision a reality. And, of course, why you should play Yakuza.
Well,
Hey,
chat,
thanks for watching the video. I really hope you had a good time.
if my entire playthrough of Yakuza from 0 to currently the man who erased his name hasn't convinced you to pick up the games yourself, maybe this video will convince you to pick it up.
The Wolfpack over on Patreon. Once again, I love you guys and thank you for letting me do things like this. And this week especially, I'd like to thank Hunter K. Jallo, Austin J. Dubby, The Proletariat, Jay Roos, Warlord Squirrel, Aki Dearest, Samurai Sushi, and Robokai Drank a Beer Once. If you'd like to hear me talk more about Yakuza, you can do so
Robokai
over
Drank a
Let's
Beer
Fight
Once
a Boss video game podcast, or you can come find me on Twitter at iPatchWolf. Friends, as always, take care of yourselves, and I'll see you next time.
Cancel. Why is it on autoplay? Anyways. Hopefully, if you weren't interested in Yakuza before, hopefully you are now. Where do you start? Well, I always say release order. You play it in release order. However, I understand how difficult it is to get hold of the older games, specifically Yakuza 1 and Yakuza 2 original for the PS2. I know how hard it is to get those. So my alternative suggestion is play it in chronological order. 0, Kiwami 1, Kiwami 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Judgment, Like a Dragon, Lost Judgment, The Man Who Erased His Name, Infinite Wealth, Yakuza Pirates in Hawaii. And then like you can go play the side games like Dead Souls, Ishin, Kenzan, Black Panther 1 and 2, Binary Domain. That one Fist of the North Star game. All right. Let's try All right, I'm going to copy this. How about we watch some funny videos relating to Yakuza? All right, here we go. Yakuza 0 out of context. So yeah, you got to do with a Chinese sword. Blind lady dramatically picking up a telephone. She's offering me a ride. And I'd be good at it. Oh. Totally not Michael Jackson. Actual breakdancing duel. Holy shit! Just drop your pants. Sexual harassment cop. Munancho. Okay, these are really funny to me because I have the context. Strangely lustrous man. Your pants are gone. Miracle Johnson. From the disco to the streets. Witness a dance of the ages. Everyone's just ignoring him. The complete silence makes it. No one's even turning around.
Yo.
Yo.
これでどうだ、錦?
Somebody help me! Nugget! A turkey. Whoa! Hey, buddy. Thanks, Daddy. Daddy. It's got a nice ring to it. Oh god. Okay. We gotta find more Yakuza out of context to watch. Just to fill out the time. Balls out, kid! We're off to a great start with this thumbnail. What? Oh, who could forget Goromi? Goromi desu.
Hito-chan, hara kukure.
You gotta go balls out, kid.
Yeah.
Look, it's the same dance he was doing back in Yakuza 0. What the hell is happening right now?
Yo!
Doda! Black or white? 2D girls don't sweat and they don't smell. Just eat the pizza, Kiryu. Whoa! Moshi moshi.
もしもし
Curry Man! I feel inspired. Time to take this log and make a carving out of it. Yes, this is a thing that actually happens. Dun, dun, dun. Friday night. Bum 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 bum. Bum 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 bum. Big boobs, tiny waist.
申し訳ございませんが、他のお客様のご迷惑になりますので。
Munancho. She's offering me a ride. We've seen some of these, but they're still funny. And I'd be good at it. Oh. Huh? Punish me. Mistress, I would like to be whipped today. I bet you'd like that, you pervert. I'm sorry. What am I doing with my life? Please wink. What the? And no, that was not a side quest with Majima. That was main story. Holy shit. Just exercise play. Be my baby. Turkey. Except it's a chicken. Like, hello, chicken. Your name will be Nugget. Let's have a pissing contest.
Oh.
Okay, got it. No, there's no change in the plan. Bye.
Limited English. The real director is this guy. Poison! It's like, I'm out of here. Mwah. This is recreating that scene from Cowboy Bebop. Yoroshiku. I think your hairline's receding. Mr. Libido. Get back here, you little shit. Here comes Granny. Kiryu-chan. Only I love you. I peacocked your mom! And this awkward scene once again. I love it.
何でもするからさ。本当に何でもする覚悟ですか。
Oh.
Beautiful eyes.
Beautiful eyes. Alright. Maybe for this last bit, I'll do some polls in Girls Frontline too. So, BRB. I'll put a high-tech lock up on my shelf so that the fuzzies can't take it. They'll never manage to pry off me now. Ha ha. I'm not sure if I can even get off, to be honest. I may have put myself in quite a doozy.
I'm in danger.
The fuzzy that took my shells just inside my house. I'll guard the door while you grab him like a whoop. Sounds like a plan. Ready or not, here we come. If we're meeting new enemies. Whoa, Mario, what? You think you're so cool with your sunglasses and your spiked collar? Think again. You're no match for Mario Jumpman Mario. I have a bad feeling about this suspiciously long hallway. Get real, King Bowser. Yeah, that Gooba King was huge. He was a total Wimpola. Well, nothing like him. See, what we've got going on is the power of teamwork. Together, we can put the herd of Mario in seconds flat. Excellent! That's the spirit. Sell it, Koopa Bros. Show our king that special attack you do so well. Yes, ma'am. Ready? Alright. So, Dushev Naya and Suomi are running right now. I do want to get a second copy of Suomi. but I don't know what's coming afterwards. So instead of pulling on limited banners, I'll be doing pulls on the standard banner, because now the standard banner has this little feature where you can choose what your preferred elite drop will be. So I'm like 40 pulls away from hard pity. So let's test the 50-50 out. I have Tololo set because she's the only one I'm missing. And after I get Tololo, I'll switch to getting like copies of QJ. So ready or not, here we go. Oh, right in time, Iggy. Welcome, Raiders. I'm Thunderbird Prime, master of VTuber. And we just finished our video react stream, and now we're doing pulls in Girls Front Line. And as you can see, Mei Ling's not doing the V for victory sign, so we did not get an elite doll. So what did we get? We got Sportivo Calibro. Highly compatible with Sabrina. Okay. Right on time. Yes, indeed. Which means, wait, you raided into me, but I was watching you, so therefore, I'm now watching myself. That is unacceptable. And here I was thinking to raid you. Oh well, you beat me to the punch. You're my Cali bro. Hey, I get it. Alright, so we're 30 away now. Don't worry, we're only doing standard pulls. Is that Thunderbird? Is that Moody? Were you lurking? Alright, so we did not get an elite. we already have maxed out Cheetah, so that's kind of funny. But that means we get more redundant pieces. Okay. So we're at 60. So we can start doing just individual pulls. Oh, you just got here? Well, welcome to the stream. We just wrapped up reacts. We were reacting to a bunch of videos on YouTube. Some of them inflammatory, others hilarious. So the title is a bit misleading. We just only switched over. Oh, there we go. We got an elite. Because Mei Ling's doing the peace sign. Tololo. So this would be like pull 62? Like overall? Alright. We have our Tololo. Now we switch to get more QJ copies. Do you wish to set Cheongju? Yes. Now here we go. Like, now that the system is in, we can go crazy with our standard pulls. We don't have to worry about anything else. Alright. Another copy of Nemesis, that's always fine. I'm still saving up for, like, the limited pulls. Don't worry about it. I'm not gonna pull for Suomi just yet. Alright, Kolfne. Vepper, okay. We got the Vepley shotgun. I'm waiting to see who's coming next after Dushev, Naya, and Suomi. Because if it's Centaurosi or Lena, I definitely have to save. OTS 14. Oh, yep, that's Groza's gun. Nope. Mailing does not do the peace sign. That's how you know whether or not you got an elite. But I'm getting close to that 260. Where I just get a copy of whoever the hell I want. Nope. Nope. Naruhodo. Hey. Model ARM. Compatible with Latara. Okay. I'll give that to the Latara then. There we go! The peace sign means you win. We keep winning those 50-50s. That peace sign is indeed a peace of mind. Ooh, and another nemesis. I'll take that. Alright, so... we could just do 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. We'll just do 6 so we can get to that 260. Who knows? Maybe we'll get another elite. Just like, nope. Like, my quickest to, like, winning the 50-50, I think, was with Mavuika, actually. I think it was, like, only 2 10 pulls or something like that. So, it is possible! I've proven it's possible! It's just very, very, very infrequent. Oh, I wanted, like, the actual 3-line rifle for Mosin Nagant. Come on. I don't want the retired version. I want the real thing. Oh, we got handgun. That's fine. I suppose. Alright, 3 more. 3 more and we get the 260. We just pick another QJ. Because I forget, it was like, I think it was like V3. You want to get QJ to V3. You don't want to go crazy with the duplicates, because like, you're gonna lose 50-50 eventually. So you don't want to get like, useless dupes. You want it so like, even if you lose 50-50, you get some value out of it. Which is why I'm not trying to get QJ to V6 just yet. I think it's like the stopping point is V3 or V4. Then we just pick QJ. Are you sure you want to claim QJ? Yes. I mean, this just looks cool. Alright, refitting room. So yeah, if a kill is scored, increase the damage bonus of support boost to 30%. If a target is afflicted with overburn, increase the critical rate of this attack by 100%. Yeah, I think it's V3. After action support, apply overburn to target for 2 turns. Action support's damage increases by 10%. Performs a support attack cannot be triggered by another support attack. Overburn. This unit, all allies within one tile receive fixed damage equal to 10% of the attack of the unit that applied this effect. Consider a burn debuff. So yeah, that's super helpful for burn teams. And combat effectiveness has jumped from like 9k to 10k. Oh yes, Supporto, Calibro. Yep, that's the gun I already have. Calibrate. Boom. And I know Nemesis. Prophecy of Morning, increased damage by 10%. Gains 1 skill point if the target has a defense debuff. What other copies? I'm pretty sure, yeah. Fully fortified Kolfne. Boom. I think you had a copy too. We gotta level up Tololo now. And change weapons. Nope, no. Model Alpha. Model Alpha, there we go. Calibrate. She'll get Model Alpha until we get Planeta. Oh, yeah. Oh shit. We gotta... Let's see. She's a DPS. I mean... If only defense was like attack, then it'd be like the perfect piece. Otherwise... I'm looking for crit rate, crit damage, attack boost, and attack. Those are like the god stats. Alright, I guess we're just doing this one. And now we want attack boost, crit rate, and attack. Attack boost is the highest priority. Let's see here. God, I have so many. So many useless ones too. None of these really work. Alright. I guess. Robinson modular rifle. Do you want to swap? Yes. Attack boosts. We'll take it. Yeah, this is like the perfect piece. Attack, crit rate, and attack boost. So we want... If we can't get all three, at least attack and attack boost. Like that. Now we have to look at the other ones too before we fully commit to it. Ugh, it's just like artifacts in Genshin. I hate it. Whatever. This'll have to do. Just boom. Tololo will pair up beautifully with Sabrina. Because Sabrina will just apply Hydro debuffs. And then Tololo will just use her Hydro skills and exploit the new weakness. Speaking of Genshin, it's like Tololo and Barbara have the same voice actor. And we're out of supplies. We're out of level up supplies. What about guns though? There's only so much we can do. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Must reach level 30. Extra action increases mobility by 1 tile. Congestion. What is congestion? Cannot be healed. Consider it a debuff. Well, yeah! A hydro debuff. Okay. I was about to say, of course being unable to heal is a debuff. Oh, we gotta clear out those red dots. Night of the Falling Stars. Nah. I'm gonna stick to Mozen here. Tololo joined. Tololo. What other personal information? Oh. Access expert. Clicking the access button from time to time is a good way of life. Brief is witnessing this. Unlock after 400 accesses. Oh no, I did 400 pulls in this game. And now I got a badge for it. Oh, Journey Witness. 54 enhancement nodes. Standard T-Dolls to rank 2. Oh, 457. Okay. A public area. Oh yeah, we need to like get her ready. Dispatch assessment. Tololo assessing. Give Tololo a gift once. Clear any stage once with Tololo deployed. Oh. Damn. Nothing that's like super happy. Well, we can just use these. Oh, we don't have enough combat reports. Shit. Well, at least we gave her a gift. Okay, okay, I guess we have to use her in like one combat simulation or something. I mean, we just do this. Go over here. These ones don't cost stamina, so. Eliminate all enemies. Kill, kill, kill. That's all I know how to do. Alright, so we won 50-50 in standard twice. That's something to be proud of. Dun. Alright. So what do we have here? Alright. Tololo. Alright. Guys, this is nothing to worry about. Just drop this. We're totally gonna bully these guys. Bully. Look, it's all for raising Tololo's affinity and get her ready for dispatch assessment. Oh. Right. She's not over leveled. She can't just take care of this. Her damage is kind of laughable. But hey, the shield holds up really well. Sabrina can just come here, shotgun him in the face. And watch this.
星々を砕け散る。戦場は片付いた。皆の者、よくやったな。
No more items will be gained for repeated challenges. Aw. So much for that idea. So how many... That's for later. Anyways, how many... 331. 331 plus 21. 352. Plus I'm only like 20 wishes in. So that's really like 372. So I'm like 4 guaranteed 5 stars. But I want to save... I can get a second copy of Suomi, but I need to see who's coming afterwards before I fully commit to that. Anyways, public area. We are done with the assessment. Total is now available. Then we have to raise her affinity, raise up this overall rank. And we just like get to level 11. We're only at level 9 before we can like get these other ones. But we got a good system here. Anyways. 20 wishes in. Genshin player spot. Yeah! We already know this. Everyone knows I'm a Genshin player. I'm juggling so many gacha games. I'm juggling Genshin, Blue Archive, Azure Lane, and now Girls Frontline 2. It's a wonder how I get anything done. But somehow I pull it off. With finesse. And grace. And skill. And the person I was planning to raid is now offline. Shit. Well, plan B. I always have a plan B. Alright. We good. We Gucci. We should play Zenless Zone Zero. What's one more? I don't know. I'm fine with like living vicariously through my friends who play ZZZ. Or ZZZ. I'm a Canadian, I should say it properly. ZZZ. Anyways, that'll do for tonight. This is the first test run of the React stream, followed by some polls in Girls Frontline 2. I guess this just proves that I need your guys' help for submitting videos for me to react to. So just go to my Discord channel, go to React Stream Submissions channel, and then submit your videos for me to watch on stream for the next React videos. And there's a link to my Discord in that gaggle of links where I have Twitter, YouTube, Discord, Throne. Should probably add Blue Sky and TikTok there. But anyway, that's it for tonight. What should our raid message be? I mean, let's call it what it is. It's a React raid. That'll be our raid message. If you're not subbed, use that one. And if you are subbed, use this one. Now, good night, everyone, and remember to stay prime.